So what happened in the evening of the 10th of May, which led President Donald Trump to tweet that full and immediate ceasefire had happened between the Indian and Pakistani armies, and which further led Marco Rubio to say that India and Pakistan will discuss a broad set of issues at a neutral venue. Let me remind you that the Indian statement did not make any mention of the word ceasefire. It did, however, meant stopping of firing and military, navy and aerial actions. There is a slight difference, but as I said earlier, we'll leave it to some later discussion. So there is a chronology of events which is better understood and analyzed. And what I am saying is basically based on the documents available in the public domain and an understanding of the issue based on previous readings and understanding the geopolitics and history of nations. So first things first, in the night of the 9th and 10th May, after 2 days of relentless attacks on Indian cities by the Pakistani drones and attempted aerial attacks, the Indian Air Force struck with full force on 9 Air Force bases and 3 radar stations and decimated these positions. The important among these air stations was the Noor Khan, Sargodha, and the Indian Air Force also did something extraordinary. It hit Kirana Hills. So what was the importance of Kirana Hills and Noor Khan, and why did Pakistan panic? The Kirana Hills is supposed to be the place where the Pakistani army stockpiles the nuclear weapons, and the Noor Khan airport is the Air Force base, which is a VIP Air Force base and which is basically used to store F-16. It is also said that the nuclear command center is based at Noor Khan airport. So Pakistan panicked when it saw that India was now using all weapons at its disposal to take on the Pakistanis, and no place in Pakistan was safe from the arm of the Indian armed forces. Now Pakistan panicked, but somebody else also panicked, and that was the United States. Now why would United States panic? Because remember, just a couple of days ago or the day before just, J.D. Vance had said that India, this conflict was not, it did not concern US at all. It did not bother them. And Donald Trump, he has this thing, something going on in his head about the 1,000 years, this conflict going in for 1,000 years. But suddenly something changed and the Americans started to reach out. Now my understanding is that Pakistan, as we all know, is the last remaining foothold of the United States in this region. Now remember, after the Afghani Jihad, and even before that, when the Soviet Union was in existence and the Cold War as it was at its peak, Pakistan, especially Peshawar, was the base where the United States used that base to keep an eye on the Soviet Union. The famous Gary Parr aircraft, which had the unmanned, the surveillance aircraft, which had taken off from Peshawar, which had been brought down by the Soviet Union, had taken off from Peshawar. So they have a history. And after Afghanistan, US has had a very strong presence in Pakistan. And it's not always military presence. It's more important to have an intelligence presence in Pakistan. So right now, we all know that US has a situation with Iran. There have been talks going on which have not been very constructive as of now. So this Pakistan is a place where US needs a foothold, an intelligence foothold, so that it can keep an eye on Iran, it can keep an eye on China, because Pakistan is known to sell its real estate. It is friend with China, but at the same time, if you pay them good money, they'll rent you the real estate to do whatever you want. So the United States is using Pakistan to keep an eye on China, keep a certain eye on Russia, Afghanistan. So the panic was that if suddenly, because look, the basic idea of the Indian operation was not to conquer or disintegrate Pakistan. That was never the motive of Operation Sindoor. It was very clear when the government said that the that the idea was to take out the terrorist infrastructure and hit the terrorist centers so as to send out a message. So it was not as if the Indian army was going to take over Pakistan. There was no possibility and there was no plan as such also. But the idea of a very weak Pakistan with the military decimated and virtually annihilated and its morale at its lowest, a weak Pakistan would mean that the Maulanas, the radical elements would come to the fore even more, and that would make life difficult for the US. It might buy some support later on, but it takes time to build up the intelligence infrastructure. So there were a lot of calls placed between the External Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar, NSA, and National Security Advisor of the United States, Marco Rubio, the Pakistani Prime Minister, and maybe what I understand, the Pakistani Army Chief was also involved. So there was a lot of panic going on. And finally, Dr. S. Jaishankar and the Indian establishment put down their foot and said that we will not accept mediation. Let Pakistan call us directly. That was the message which was sent out to the United States and through United States to Pakistan. So finally the call came and things, because the motive of Operation Sindoor was nearly complete. We had taken out the infrastructure and sent out a very firm message to Pakistan that this will not carry on any longer. This will not hold. So the moment this stopping of firing came into place, President Donald Trump jumped into the picture and sent out that tweet. Now that is very important as to why did he send out that tweet. My understanding is that the US establishment, despite the growing closeness between the Indian establishment and the Pakistani and the US establishment, is not very comfortable with a growing and an assertive India. Remember the strategic autonomy we displayed when the West was pushing us to intervene and force us to cut off our relations with Russia during the Russia-Ukraine war. We stood our ground. Now, this has not been taken very lightly by the United States establishment, the Western establishment. So they want to make life uncomfortable for India. So this tweet, in my understanding, was basically to make life uncomfortable for India and in particular the Prime Minister. Donald Trump somehow wanted to send out a message that we can make life difficult for you through these very small steps. Ironically, despite the strength they portray, India, remember it's been 48 hours now, India has not yet taken the name of the United States and Donald Trump or Marco Rubio or anybody in its statement. We have simply stopped firing. That is it. The operations are still going on, but we have stopped firing. So United States has also been responded in a very discreet manner where silence is like 1,000 words. So when we get angry at our establishment, look, geopolitics is a very complex thing. It is very easy to say that India should have gone ahead and done this and done that. There are certain objectives. When an operation is launched, there are certain objectives. The objectives have been met. So we need to remember that when we come into the picture. The hyphenation is not going to happen. Kashmir, India has made it very clear, and the India of today is very assertive. It is very firm. Kashmir will not be resolved through any third-party mediation. They can tweet whatever they want. The American establishment, the Western establishment can keep on saying whatever they want. There will be no intervention in Kashmir. There is going to be no third-party or neutral venue conversations between India and Pakistan. The hyphenation is not going to happen. The Pakistani establishment has been sent a very firm message. The army has been put in place. The nuclear weapon sites have been targeted, and the message has been sent out very firmly to the Pakistani army. Thus, this nuisance will not be tolerated. Any further terrorist acts will be treated as an act of war. This is a very serious thing, and we'll wait and watch out as to how this turns out. So we're waiting for the Prime Minister. I believe he's going to address us at 8 p.m. today. So we're waiting for him to come out and give out. I'm sure that he's going to give out a lot more facts. What we say is basically based on an analysis and understanding. What he says is going to be the truth. So we need to have faith in our political leadership. We need to have faith in our armed forces leadership. Until then, watch out for this space. Thank you and Jai Hind.